Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, one and all, to another episode of Factorio Masochists Marathon. Don't know why, I just felt like doing a slightly different intro there because it started to feel like the other one was getting a bit tedious, but I don't really know. Yes, so we start the episode off putting in those last 5 wooden chests for the copper depot, because I completely forgot to put them in last episode. So last episode we were just addressing anything that could be an issue while we run off and leave the factory for a whole hour, and so that we could get blue science up to as fast a rate as we possibly could with the current income of iron and copper and whatnot. So I'm fairly happy with the factory. So this episode is pretty much just pure frying of biters with some lovely hot lasers. Bit of an odd name to call them, but oh well, that's essentially what they're doing. So yeah, one of the mods we are using are the laser turrets mod. I can't remember its exact name. I have actually been meaning to put the mods available in the description that I am using, but it's not really anything spectacular. It's mostly, I always forget this saying, ease of life, quality of life mods, quality of life, and also some aesthetical mods. And we lose our first turret. We don't lose loads this episode, but we do lose them at certain times where I'm either being a little bit complacent or just getting completely overwhelmed. Anyway, yes, so we've got the laser turret sort of mod because I always quite approved of this mod. I think I first heard it from one of the multiplayer games with Stejo, Arumba, Manglepork, and maybe the one with Avik. I can't remember who was involved in that one, but I thought it made a lot of sense. The lasers having these auto-tracking projectiles seemed a bit odd, and the beams seemed to make a lot more sense, really. I know it's only an aesthetical thing, but hey, if you've been watching a lot of my videos, you know how I am with aesthetics, or at least very particular layouts. Maybe not aesthetics exactly, but yeah, another benefit to this mod is you don't get the crazy or annoying or unrealistic pew pew noise. You get a nice quiet frazzling sound of the biters dying, and if you're really close to the beam you get a slight hum because of the extreme surge of power. So my tactic here was to slowly creep up the side of the lake here, but because the lake's on one side of us, biters can only come at us at one side, whereas if you were digging straight into the Red Sea, you would be completely surrounded by biters and very easily overwhelmed, or at least not overwhelmed in number of turrets, but amount of power that we're able to produce to power that number of turrets. And the reason I'm not increasing our power even more than I already have is because the pollution cloud around the power is already encroaching near some nests, which I need to deal with. And I kind of wanted to get up to here first, and I thought, well, we've got enough power too. So yeah, we're doing it with this amount of power and this number of turrets. In my opinion, power seems to be adequate. Although when I'm hovering over a lot of turrets, you can see the bar flicking. But that's the way the turret works, I believe. Once it fires, it then recharges before its next shot. I might be wrong with that, but we do look at the power occasionally while a lot of turrets are shooting, and we never hit the max performance or available performance of the steam engines, as far as I could tell. So throughout the episode, we do have a look at the evolution scale just to keep an eye on how quickly it's growing. So currently it's at 0.68. I think we looked at it before this, and at the start of the episode it was around 0.65. So we're already not far off 0.7. We have kind of reached the ore patch, but nowhere near enough to be able to actually put some rail in or any miners. But now we've cleared that bit up to the lake. Biters can only really come at me from the west or from the south or southwest. So the smaller amount of biters that I have to be dealing with at one time, the better, because the more concentrated the laser turrets can be, and the less likelihood, it's going to be less likely we're going to max out on power and get overwhelmed and have to make a terrible retreat, or a non-tactical retreat is what I was thinking of calling it. Because throughout the episode we sort of dig into the Red Sea and then make tactical retreats, and then find the most effective way to then dig in further without getting too surrounded by biter nests. But one thing I noticed with the biter settings, we've got the groups of nests, because I believe the way it works is each groups of nests are kind of like a family, or I don't know, a neighborhood, a cul-de-sac or whatever. But then when you destroy, I think it's nests, or destroy the last nest in that group, any other neighborhoods nearby that are kind of separate but are close, then send all their available biters to come and retaliate. So yeah, at some points we get very overwhelmed by biters. But one thing you may notice throughout the episode is my kind of abuse of long reach, or I guess use of. I mean, if this was a personal playthrough and I wasn't doing this for a series, I would never have installed long reach. I don't really agree with it, but my compromise was to go for long reach upgrade. So at least with the expensive tech, it was a very expensive thing for me to go for. But you'll see more and more as we go through the episode, I really start to use it. So the biters really don't seem bothered about power poles being near their nest. So my tactic becomes putting poles as close as I dare using long reach without getting attacked. And then the biters only get triggered when I actually place the turrets. Now, I don't know if that's just because I'm not putting power poles close enough for them to be really bothered and they only get triggered as I place the turret because it starts attacking the biters, or if that is indeed a bug with the AI, or if that's literally how the AI is written. But because, of course, in vanilla, you wouldn't be using long reach, so you'd never be able to get that close to put the power poles that close without triggering an attack with you being there, if any of that made any sense. So we have another look at the evolution factor, and we're at 0.7 already. So I'm guessing that's why they've never put that in the AI, because in vanilla, yeah, you'd never get close enough to put power poles there without you triggering an attack yourself, is what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense? I don't know. Either way, I'm that paranoid about the game settings I've picked of having a stalemate. I've got it, so I'm going to use it because, yeah, this would be even harder without it, although this was supposed to be a very hard game setting anyway. That was kind of the whole idea of the name. I'm going to stop rambling on about that and stop digging a hole. So we carry on with the biter pushing, and at this point we get pretty surrounded, and it was what I was on about earlier. If we dig too deep, we just start getting attacked from way too many angles. So I removed some turrets north of me to try and stop triggering attacks there, because I noticed if you kill a biter or spitter within a certain distance from the nest, it then triggers further attacks from that direction, and you kind of get this endless chain of attacks until you either back off a bit or take out the nest. So we move down from the north, then we move down to the south there just to dig at that bit, and then we make yet another tactical retreat, as once we start having the maximum number of lasers placed, I run out, and it's a good idea to back it up and just work out the best directions to come in. And I was also working out sort of the minimum number of biters to clear to get a station in, and I was thinking of putting a bit of diagonal rail in there just to minimize that. But as we get more and more into the episode, fussy me suddenly kept coming in and wanted a nice straight line in and a right angle up to come up nicely between the coal and the uranium, so we can have essentially 3 outposts there eventually. One for the coal, which won't last very long, but we might as well mine it and get out of the way. Obviously one for the uranium, because that is a very big uranium patch as uranium standards go. And obviously we really need that 1.2 or 1.5 iron there. So we have a little session of repairing there. Very, very grateful for the devs changes of how damaged items are in your inventory. Otherwise my inventory would be constantly filling up and I'd spend a lot more time repairing. I know I should be doing it constantly, but doing it in little sessions like that really did save me some time. So we now creep up in, because I wanted to start clearing the area out round the iron, because we've kind of cleared out south of the patch now, so we can really start to push out around here. A little bit awkward getting past those trees initially, but now we have a bit of a foothold in the area. We can really start to spread out. We've taken out that nest to the north, so we only really have biters coming at us from the west, and after a little while slightly from the south. But yeah, I really did learn a lot in biter pushing in this episode. Really did learn a lot about the science of biters and how they behave. Starting to feel like the Steve Irwin of biters, although Steve Irwin didn't kill animals, he learned how to tame them. But I don't think there's anything in the mechanics of the game for me to tame the biters, although that would be a lot easier with this current scenario. But it did bring me onto another thing I wanted to talk about in the episode, was the fact that if I'm going to stick to my promise of doing absolutely everything in recordings, it means a lot of the episodes are just going to consist of biter slaying. Because at the end of this episode, I did have a good look at the map for some bottlenecks, and the idea of starting to push towards clearing out a nice big area around the factory so we can start to get some real production going. But I thought I may have to start doing some biter slaying either outside of recordings, although I did have another idea where I could just sit down and do a ridiculously long live stream of just plain biter slaying. But I kind of wanted to ask, would anyone really actually want to watch that? Or would people be more happy with me doing a load of biter slaying in between an episode, or an episode that's quite heavily edited of just updates as I go along? I don't know. I haven't quite decided yet, but any kind of feedback probably help me make a decision. And we lose yet another turret just because I'm kind of pushing out here a bit too recklessly, not really planning my approaches. We got a little bit overwhelmed. Plus, I'm using quite a few damaged laser turrets. But either way, we've got a rough area, or an initial area cleared out around the iron patch. So I'm fairly happy at this point. We've sort of achieved the patch. I could get a rail in here now pretty easily and maybe put in a few miners, but we would have to be very careful of how many we put in. So we use the lovely map feature to just have a check over everything, seeing how the Iron Outpost 1 is, seeing how the blue science is going. But it's not running anywhere near even 50% at the moment, but we can start to address that when we start to obtain a few more resources. So I'd spend a little bit of time just having a ponder, clearing the trees around, because that's always good therapy. And we expose the entire iron patch, which is kind of like a nice sort of long, thin shape, a lot fatter at the top. But yeah, not really resembling any kind of particular shape that I can think of, but it is always fun to have something in particular, like the giant apple in Mangle Pork's Rail World series. At least I think it was a giant apple. Anyway, not to sound like I'm struggling things for commentary, but we have another session of repairing turrets, just so we don't run into that situation again, because we did get pretty overwhelmed. And the evolution scale is at now 0.71, which I was actually quite surprised about. I thought it was going to be way higher than that, because we took out quite a number of nests there. So I don't know if there's something with the evolution scale where as it gets higher, it starts to slow down. I don't know. That might just sound like a load of BS, but I was actually quite surprised. I was expecting a higher value than that. So we go full on with a lot more lasers than I have been in the past to try and deal with this neighborhood, because it is pretty thick. But we keep running into this issue where you run out of an item and it blueprints that item once you get to the end. And I thought I'd found the setting in Picker and switched it off, but I was too confident that I'd found the right setting. I never actually tested it before I started recording. I started recording, realized it didn't work, but I didn't want to stop and restart. And to be honest, I've now filtered the slot on my quickbar for the turret, so it doesn't really matter if I keep running out and that blueprint popping up, because I can just hit Q and just drop it into my inventory, and it doesn't seem to create duplicates. So I was kind of wrong last episode where I said it started filling up my inventory. It does a little bit, but it might just be it sticks it on any empty slots on your quickbar, not in your inventory. I don't really know. But yeah, I've failed to switch that off and discover what the setting is. So we have a nice clear area west of the ore patches where I'm kind of planning on having the station. I want the line to come up nicely in between the uranium and the iron, so in the future it's nicely spaced out for stations and we don't have to have any awkward weird stations laid out. We have another look at the evolution scale just to keep an eye on it. We're now at 0.72, but we have a look on the map and I realise a nest has popped up just north of where the oil processing is in that desert area, or northwest more like. So I just come down and deal with that because it's made me a bit nervous. I don't want any of this power line to be taken out, because all they need to do is take out one telegraph pole is what we call them over here. But yeah, I'd take that out because I was just a bit nervous. As soon as we lose one of those, the laser turrets are going to become completely useless. So I'm going to lose a load and potentially risk my life. Don't know why I called them telegraph poles. I think that's actually the lines for phone lines, not even power. So don't know where that came from, but yeah, still an interesting word, telegraph. Anyway, I come and put in another radar up here along the track just to have visibility all the way along there, because I'm quite nervous about any caravans popping down. But I don't really want to go and clear those new nests because they're just going to pop up again until I put in either a massive wall that's going to cost me loads of resources or push back to some bottlenecks, which is my plan. So until it becomes a problem, I'm just going to keeping the biters at arm's length. So come down, grab a few more resources, make some extra laser turrets because we are going to be putting some down at some point as extra defenses. So I always need to keep a certain number on me. Anyway, enough rambling about that. We've completed the laser turret speed, which was at 800 science packs. And I do start the laser turret damage, which is another 800. And then I realized we're pretty much capped on light and heavy oil, so we're only going to get so much plastic from that, and we kind of need to get on with oil processing next episode. We need to get on with the oil cracking. So what I do, now I've got some extra batteries, I now cut off the production of those, so 100% of the petroleum that's now going to get produced from that extra space for light and heavy can go into advanced oil processing. Next episode we can get on with cracking, then we don't have to worry about buffering all that light and heavy because it's pretty pointless, but at least it's there ready for us to turn to petroleum and lube at some point. So I come back up with the determination to pretty much have biter slaying the whole episode. I kind of want to push these groups back a little bit more so we can comfortably put in a station straight away next episode, and then immediately get on with some oil cracking. So I've pretty much laid out what we're doing next episode. I can't think of anything else more immediate other than some biters attacking the factory somewhere. But now we're getting a bit more space here. This starts to become a little bit easier at certain points, but we do kind of start to push them away. But yeah, we're consistently getting quite a lot of medium biters, or is it large biters? In fact, I think they're actually called big biters. Either way, we're killing them fairly well. That speed upgrade is helping quite a bit. I'm not sure if that's now pushed us closer to potentially maxing out our power production, but that's something else I'm going to address soon. If we're going to continue with laser pushing, I will need to expand the power even more. Maybe put some batteries in now we're comfortably, accumulators. Now we're comfortably getting enough batteries is what I meant to say. But as it turns to night here, you can see that lovely huge uranium patch really start to glow. So while past me was continuing on this biter slaying, I was thinking about the best direction to go in next when we want to move away from lasers. What is a better tactic than this? And my answer is kind of like it was in the Bob's Angels playthrough. My favourite way to kill biters obviously is with power armor and a flamer, and also some destroyer capsules, because I find them very effective, and I think that's going to be best, but I need to look into just how much resources we need to get to that level. Can we do it with what we have access to already? What sort of pushing are we going to have to do? Because to be honest, it's going to be way quicker using that method, in my opinion. It's a bit less risky because I'm completely relying on having power available and the turrets killing the biters, whereas with power armor I can run away quickly. I'm well defended with shields, and I think personally the destroyer capsules are very effective. But of course, this line of thinking made me realize I'm completely overlooking the fact that this is 0.15 and there's some new warfare. And the most obvious thing I thought of was nuclear warheads. I absolutely cannot wait to have those in this playthrough. It's one of the things I thought of while recording. I did lose a turret there. It was kind of hidden behind a tree. I couldn't quite get it. I didn't want to risk myself, and it was nearly dead, and I kind of had to retreat. So we're at 0.73 on the evolution factor, still slowly creeping up, but not as fast as before, in my personal opinion. But I don't really know. I might just be getting paranoid, as I've said before. But yeah, I absolutely cannot wait to get to warheads. We've got blue science, so we have what we need to at least research the processing of uranium, albeit that research does cost 4,000 science packs. I'll have to do a little bit of math to work out what it is. Not very difficult math, but yeah, I think we may be able to justify it with the fact that we are not doing solar, so it would be a nice way to power the factory and obviously work our way to warheads. For the actual warheads themselves, we are going to need purple and yellow science packs, which, yeah, I can't really determine exactly, but they're going to be a little bit further ahead because I still need to be very careful of having a stalemate, but I've at least achieved this iron patch here, which is going to carry us on a little bit longer. We can start to look where we need to push to next, but I really would like to work out a nice 360-degree perimeter, push out to some bottlenecks, or I may just have to bite the bullet and spend a load of resources on a sort of 360-degree perimeter defense. I don't really want to, but there are some bottlenecks to the east and to the south that we can utilize. It's mainly the west, I think, that is the biggest problem. But I just clear out a couple more nests down here in the south because to get a nice horizontal track in with a nice right angle up between the ore patches, I may need to clear these out, but we'll find out next episode. When I come and put the rail in, we'll see what we have to clear, and then how well the rail's going to survive being right next to the Red Sea. But yeah, it's been a nice little double whammy this episode. I didn't really think of clearing the uranium patch, but we've now pretty much achieved both patches. We've definitely got the iron. Maybe a nest we need to deal with north of that but not too much work to also achieve that uranium, and we can at least get on with the start of the processing so we have enough of the 235, is it? I always get the two mixed up, but the lighter green one to start the Kovarex enrichment process. Then we have enough of that so we can produce quite a lot of it at a quick rate, because I think I'm going to heavily go for uranium when I'm able to, with the amount of pollution and biters around us. But yeah, nice little double whammy clearing this episode, getting both patches. But yeah, do let me know in the comments what you think the best method for clearing biters is and how I can go about recording it. Next episode, we're going to get on with some oil cracking and getting an outpost in here. We also spend the outro with the incessant bleeping of the radar because I stood too close. But that's going to be all we have time for. I do hope you have enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and please do come and join me in the next episode. Bye-bye.